Greetings, fellow men. Servus, Männer. This is Red Pill Germany again, and today I want to talk about the elections in Austria, our neighbors to the southeast. This video comes a little bit late, but I had a busy week, as always, so I want to talk about this now. Now, this is a very important election, and the outcome has a symbolic character, or could actually let us draw a lot of conclusions about the future of the European continent if you have a close look at the results. So let's look straight at the outcomes. First of all, if you're not familiar with these parties, if you have watched my previous videos, the SPÖ is basically the SPD of Germany. It is a social democratic party. The ÖVP, the Österreichische Volkspartei, is like Angela Merkel's CDU. They're these centrist Christian conservatives, basically. The FPÖ, the Freiheitliche Partei Österreichs, is like the AfD with 10 more years on its back or something. It is a more seasoned freedom party. The AfD is still very new, still finding itself, but the FPÖ already came back. Then the Green Party, the Grünen, they are the Green Party. I don't know what the hell NEOS is. And Liste Pilz, very, very interesting. I will talk about that later. They split off from the Green Party, and this is why the Green Party will not be in the parliament anymore. You need to get more than 4% of the popular vote in order to make it into parliament. In Germany it's 5, in Austria it's 4, but the Green with the measly 3.8% will not make it into the Austrian parliament anymore. So all of them have to leave their offices now. So what is so important and so interesting about this election is that so far, just like in Germany before the election, we had a big coalition. So the cucks of Angela Merkel here, their equivalent in Austria, the Österreichische Volkspartei, with their old leaders, they had a coalition with the Social Democrats. Now, just recently, a young guy, Sebastian Kurz, took over in this centrist party, and he actually has a very pronounced position on immigration, namely restrict immigration, fight against Turkish influence in Austria, and his mission is basically to uncuck the right. Of course, he has to do that in a very family-friendly, not so radical way, so he's not at all like the alt-right, of course. He has to be very polite and very well behaved and appeal to the average population, of course, but you can see that he is not at all like these conservatives. And as you see in the polls, his party actually gained in popularity once he took over. And here in Germany, we always get to hear that there is no alternative to Angela Merkel, and the CDU has basically become a degenerate fan club of Angela Merkel's minions. But as I will comment on towards the end of the video, this is about to change very soon, and the Austrian election is a catalyst to this development. So if we look at the wins and the losses, you see almost no change for the Social Democrats, but the Green Party lost a lot. Of course, this Liste Pilz, the party that split off from them, took some of the voters with them, of course, but the biggest winners are the centrists under the young leader Sebastian Kurz, who is much more conservative and much more nationalist than the cucks, and then of course the Austrian Freedom Party under the leadership of HC Strache. Now, of course, I welcome the change in the centrist party in Austria, but I would have voted, if I were an Austrian, I would have voted FPÖ, of course. I think HC Strache is doing an amazing job, and I said earlier that his party is like the AfD, but not quite. He actually managed to tame all these weird fringe elements that we find now in the AfD, which is quite a task for the Germans here in the AfD, to manage all these people in the party. So the FPÖ is a little bit further on this journey, and they made no compromises. They clearly said no to neo-Nazism, and they excluded a lot of very radical members. They were very consequent in their nationalist, pro-Austrian message, and it paid off huge dividends in the end. And what I could tell so far from the media, Sebastian Kurz now, as the leader of the biggest party in the parliament, has of course now been given the order from the president to form a new government, just like Merkel now has the job to find a new coalition. And he talks to everyone, of course, but it is very likely that he will form a coalition with the Austrian Freedom Party. And this is, of course, the goal for Germany as well, that the right-wing party becomes stronger and that they also become a little bit rounded at the edges, so that it might be possible to form a coalition in the end once Angela Merkel has been kicked out by the next generation in the CDU. And this is exactly what we see on a much smaller scale now in Austria. Austria would be like a very big, very prosperous federal state in Germany, like Bavaria, for example. And we can see there already what happens. Yeah? A young person comes along and he rises up against these old cucks and actually forms a coalition with a more radical right-wing Freedom Party that has developed now, like a wine, has matured, so that people would actually, with good reason, trust them to form a stable new government. And you can already see first signs. This young man, Sven Rissmann from the CDU in Berlin, said that his party, the CDU, became degenerate. It became a bunch of degenerates. Maybe that was dog whistling, but what he meant by that is it became degenerate in the sense that they just agreed with whatever Angela Merkel said. Yeah? They became a fan club of Angela Merkel, or a chancellor election club, as people used to say. But he said this is degeneracy and we need to change that. So I don't know if this young man will become the next Sebastian Kurz, but there are young people who actually see now the party is losing votes. Angela Merkel is not a superstar anymore. She is damaged now, and if we want to succeed in this party, we need to be more conservative, we need to be more nationalist, we need to close the European borders, not the German borders, even though we need to protect them too, but the European borders must be protected. We need a fortress Europe, we need strict controls on every train station, on every airport, on the streets, in schools, everywhere. We need to check people, we need to categorize them in groups, we need to send them back, kick them out, throw them in jail, whatever we have to do so that the law will be upheld in our countries. Just as a little side note, so that you see that I'm not talking out of my ass here, the police in Germany now openly said that they are unable to uphold the law because it is impossible for them to catch criminals, and once they catch them, these sick hippie judges, these baby boomer communist judges, they just let them go free again. The police says they cannot protect the citizens anymore. This is what I'm talking about. This is a recipe for civil unrest. We need to stop this. And I think Sven Risse is not the only one. There are more young people in the centrist party that will take over, that will be much more open because of personal experiences on the streets, personal experiences in their school, in their university, of what it means to be replaced as a indigenous population. So there is no doubt there is a new breed of politicians now just starting, planning, working behind the scenes to replace Angela Merkel and to take over. And then we will also in Germany, it's just a matter of time, we will have a centrist right-winged coalition sooner or later. And this is what Frauke Petry wanted to do now, but now is not the time. The time is not there yet. The CDU is still way too cucked. They need to suffer more. They need to go through the valley of tears, and then they will be ready. This is why Frauke Petry had to leave, and this is why now everything turned out well, and we're on the trajectory to having a right-winged coalition, maybe in 4 years. In Austria, let's see how these coalition talks go, how this story unfolds. They might already have this center-right coalition very, very soon. And now, at the end, I want to talk about the Green Party in Austria. So of course, the Green Party there, just like in Germany, is a bunch of fat, degenerate men and some women that angry foreigner in Sweden would call a Batik-Hexe or something. You know, these middle-aged women with these fake ethnic clothes and these hippie esoteric beliefs who twice a year go to Africa to, you know, what old men do in Thailand, right? They are childless and they are caring more about animals and foreigners than about their own folk. And in this degenerate party, there was, of course, also an inner party election. The party tried to figure out what person should be on what list position for the upcoming elections. And Peter Pilz is one of the founding members of the Green Party, as far as I know, in Austria. And he didn't get the fourth position. He wanted to get the fourth position, but his topics, I mean, of course, he's also a Green Party guy. Yeah, I would never vote for this guy. He's a maniac. He's a crazy person in my book, but there is still a difference, like day and night, between him and all these other degenerate Green Party people, all these witches. Yeah? He still has a shred of rationality. I would say he personified the rational wing of the Green Party. And then he split off, and that proved disastrous because he took a lot of the voters, of course, with him. He formed his own little list with some other members there, and yeah, now he is actually in the parliament in Austria, and the Green Party is not. And this just goes to show again that women just can't do it. Yeah? You need capable, rational men, otherwise the ship sinks. But these women, they would rather be the queen on a sinking ship than being, yeah, I don't know, the lieutenant on a ship that is right on course. That's their problem. And you see the same thing in the Social Democratic Party. If you remember, yeah, Schulz lost. Yeah, he is not successful there. And then the women in the Social Democratic Party in Germany said, aha, now it is the time for the women to take over. The men can do it. And now all the positions should be, yeah, filled with women, of course. And of course, there is a sexism debate now again, and everything is sexist, and we need more women there. So I can just see they will not be relevant for the next decade, I'm saying. Because when they now fill all these positions with incapable women, then of course they will stay irrelevant. There is no doubt about that. So you can see that all these leftist, feminist women, they got what they wanted, they got the leadership, and now they're out of parliament. That means they must find an actual job now. But I think they can just work in some NGO and be funded by George Soros instead. Or maybe start the next Twitter campaign against sexism. And of course, I have to say that Austria is not the only state where something is changing. You see, for example, in the Czech Republic, we just had a Donald Trump-like character that was elected there by the name of Andrej Babiš. I hope I'm pronouncing this name correctly. If there are some Czech listeners out there, you can maybe enlighten us in the comment section. I plan to make a video about this guy. I'm just doing some research on the matter. So the Czech Republic will also be right-winged in the future. Yeah? They had a social democrat leader so far, and they also drift to the right. So of course the Czech Republic is part of the Visegrad alliance, around Hungary, Poland, Czech Republic, and Slovakia. These four countries have very, very historical connections to Austria also, but now under Sebastian Kurz, there could be actually also a political bond now between the Visegrad states and Austria under a conservative Sebastian Kurz, who also said that these NGOs in the Mediterranean Sea have to be stopped. So George Soros needs to be stopped, and we need to close the Balkan route into Europe. So there is a lot of common ground to start a fruitful cooperation. And in terms of the European Union, they also have in common that they don't want a Soviet Union-like superstate. They want cooperating, friendly neighbors. They want sovereign national states that cooperate in vital matters. This is what the AfD wants also for Germany. This is what I want for Europe. This is the best way for the future, we think. And at the moment, it looks like that our camp is winning because the Greens and the Social Democrats, they are losing all over Europe. So I think this vision of a Soviet Union-like superstate in preparation of a world government, this vision is dead by now. Everyone agrees. Just like no one would like to see Turkey join the European Union anymore. Least of all Turkey, by the way. But I digress. So, I wish you a pleasant rest of the weekend and catch you guys again later. Servus, Kameraden.